FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is March 7th, 2017. And, well, we're getting closer to the Ides of March. Whatever that means, I'm not sure. But it sure will be interesting to see, won't it? Hey, have you been reading about internet censorship and keeping out unwelcome opinions, so-called fake news? Well, fake news is in the eyes of the beholder, isn't it? Got to see what will come of it. But somebody who's had some direct experience with it recently, who's been seeing it firsthand, is Jason Burack, WallStreetForMainStreet.com. And Jason, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Gary. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, so you were in the midst of building a humongous YouTube channel, and you've kind of been frozen, stopped dead in your tracks, haven't you?
Yeah, I feel like almost that we were driving along in a sports car at like 50 or 60 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden a brick wall appeared and we just smashed into it. So that's kind of how I feel. In the summer of 2016, we were growing at almost 1,000 new subscribers a month we were adding to the channel. And so we had a lot of paid advertisers that were interested in our growth. We should have been at this point, had we kept those growth numbers, over 20,000 subscribers on our channel and over 3,000 views. And basically around September-ish of 2016, things just ramped up with YouTube censorship algorithms, and all of our analytics are down 80%. Our ad revenues, we were going to make on an annualized basis, we were making $600 a month. So $7,200 was taken out of our pocket due to censorship from YouTube. We're not even making $100 a month now in ad revenues anymore. We're barely getting like half the amount of views each video that we were getting in the past. And we're hearing from people who subscribe to our channel that they're being unsubscribed without their permission, and that if they're still subscribed to our channel, our new videos, when we release them, are not even showing up in their feeds anymore. So YouTube is playing an enormous amount of games with us. It's not really fair, but, we're a little guy. And so what can we do? So thankfully, we're getting quality companies outside of YouTube interested in paid advertising, but it's really messed up that they took so much money out of our pocket and they totally stopped our growth. They also removed 100,000 views from our view counter a month ago with, no email, no explanation, no nothing. So, and Twitter is not much better. One of my good friends, I had a business lunch with him yesterday, and he loves listening to our interviews. He's been on our program too. He's a newsletter writer now, and he's worked in finance. And he said that he follows me on Twitter, and he hasn't seen any of my tweets in months. So Twitter's been shadow banning me for a while too, which is where, your followers on Twitter don't even see your tweets anymore if Twitter doesn't like what you have to say in them. So, well,
look, let me tell you something here. So it's kind of like you were in your Tesla and you were on autopilot or auto drive or driver assist, as they like to call it. And then all of a sudden this wall kind of jumped out in front of you and you slammed right into it, which is why I've always stuck to the model of doing my podcast, do your video, and just send them to your website, because you're in control of your website. Granted, you're not going to get the leaps and bounds in viewership like you get on YouTube, but I had this with YouTube years ago. I mean, I used to get tens of thousands of views and downloads on everything that I posted on YouTube. And I used to, when you would Google my name on Google, I'd come up millions of times. And then they changed the algorithms one day, and I come up here. I'll Google myself right now, Kerry Lutz, and we'll just say financial, nothing else, okay? I get like a few thousand. I get 340,000 results. I'm on so many websites, Jason, all over the place, so many different places, so many people pick up my links. And I've been doing this 6 years. I've done 4,500 interviews and shows. All right. I was there millions of times, but they've managed to marginalize me to 340,000. All right. And if I do myself on YouTube, FSN Gold and Silver. All right. YouTube. and it comes up to like nothing. I mean, well, that actually comes up with 10,100,000 results. I don't quite understand that, but really the channel's turned into nothing. I just post stuff up there because I like to just post it there. But, I interviewed this guy. They haven't gotten around to banning him yet. His name is Sticks, Hex, and Hammer 666. He's gotten to 100,000 subscribers, and he does political commentary, and he's kind of a hippie-looking guy in Vermont. They haven't gotten around to banning him yet, but I know they will. In that one, I got 18,000 views. But they've been doing this thing for years. And finally, I just said, I'm not going to sue them. I'm not going to fight them because, they'll keep me in court for the rest of my life. But hey, if you're going to set up a class action lawsuit against them and get 5,000 people to chip in, hey, set up a GoFundMe thing. And let's all we'll hire the right people. I know the right class action attorney. I had a guy one time that we used for junk faxing lawsuits out in Washington State. We'll hire these guys, and then we'll just go after Google. I mean, the law firm doesn't care. They're just in it for the money. And let's just go for it, okay?
Okay, yeah, I know a number of other YouTube channels in our space, whether it's SDT Report or Finance and Liberty, Elijah Johnson. Cliff High, if you're familiar with him, he released a video recently naming some of the websites that have gotten hit the most. Their Google, I was speaking with Sean from SGT Report. His Google traffic is down 25% lately. That's a big hit on his advertising revenue. And, people's YouTube channels besides mine are also getting hit. But basically, I think, Carrie, with these censorship algorithms, if a little guy starting out now trying to grow their YouTube channel, I think it's almost impossible now to get up to 100,000 views unless, like, you're a comedian or you're a really pretty girl.
Or you talk about cooking or wine or houses. Or flipping houses. Yeah, you could do that, or selling on Amazon. But yeah, you're right.
I remember like 6 or 7 years ago when I first got on YouTube, I was seeing there was a lot less competition in our space, and people could get it up pretty quickly to 100,000 or 200,000 views. Those days are gone. I think they basically made it impossible. I think they're trying to get people to spend more money on advertising to promote their channel. But one of the commenters on my video said that YouTube could be underreporting the amount of views on each video and pocketing the advertising revenue for themselves. But I mean,
don't even get me. Do you want to get me really started here, Jason? I mean, Google's ad thing, it used to be, look, I have this friend who was in the domain name business. He made millions at it. He's brilliant because he realized the internet was going to be something before anyone else did. He bought up like names like you couldn't believe. He maxed out his cards and he made just a ton of money. He's kind of retired now. So he still has like 10,000 of them, and he has them tied up with Google ad revenue, where you just get links when you get to these blank sites. He used to get like $10,000 a day in revenue. Now he's lucky to get $10,000 a month. It's still the same stuff, still the same links. It's still the same Google. They've just decided he doesn't deserve 10,000 a day. They pocket that money and they give him what they feel like. Google is an exploitative company. They just have a black box. There is no transparency whatsoever. They pay you what they feel like. And whatever they feel like paying, you have zero recourse in getting any accountability whatsoever. So class action, GoFundMe, and let's sue the bastards and make them open up their books.
Yeah, I'll share this with some of my other friends in our YouTube channel and alternative podcast space. I think there's interest there because if we did try to do this by ourselves, I don't think we would get very far. But as a class action, large corporations, something they do fear is a bunch of people joining together.
Yeah, and the bad publicity. One thing these mega companies hate is bad publicity. And look, you got 100,000 followers, I got a few 100,000. We combine them all, and we just start slamming these bastards. Pardon the French, this is a family publication. Bad publicity they hate. And we start a legislative campaign. We know how to do that. I've gotten bills passed before, locally in New York State. And just keep the pressure up on them, and they will crack eventually. The only way that they can thrive and do what they do now is in silence. When good men go silent, evil flourishes, right?
Yes. Yes, but a lot of people don't want to waste the time and resources it takes to go up against a large corporation. And we were discussing this before the interview that the U.S. legal system, it's not expeditious for the most part, and it's not fast and efficient. So it's time consuming. It takes a lot of money. So it's not anything I would plan on getting rich on. But let's talk about the economy rather than just the rest of the lawsuit the rest of the time.
Google is the economy. I mean, look, the tech companies are the economy. Let's face it. And how do they pull this stuff off, right? They
have a lot of lobbying. They have a lot of DC presence here in lobbying. So if they want something done, there's politicians asking them in exchange for donation dollars what they want done.
Yeah. I mean, right. That's it. So the economy, but we've got two economies, maybe three. We got Wall Street, we've got the stock market, and then we got the rest of us who are trying to make ends meet, right?
Yeah, the real economy, I think, now that Trump's in office, I think we're going to see a lot worse stagflation, and I think it could come in a number of different ways. If Trump is successful with his tax cuts and also with some of his other infrastructure and spending plans, and also reducing regulations, obviously that's going to take some time. It's going to probably take 2 years at least to get these things passed through Congress and get some of the money to hit the real economy. But that can boost inflationary expectations and velocity of money. So if we see wage growth in the economy from any of Trump's plans, that could be stagflationary. If we see Trump's tariffs passed, which he has talked about, he wants a 20% tariff on goods, on imported goods.
Not a tariff, a border goods adjustment tax. Let's be accurate.
That's a fancy name, Terry, for protectionism or a tariff. I mean, almost any of these types of things are still technically tariffs. And I interviewed Paul Craig Roberts on my channel a month ago. Your listeners can go listen to the interview. He said any of these types of border adjustment taxes or tariffs are illegal since the United States joined the World Trade Organization.
And yet every country is doing it, Jason. Every other 150 countries are doing it. It's so illegal. Why are they all doing it?
Here's the thing. The U.S. signed a one-sided thing with the WTO. When the U.S. was in power and the dominant economy, they didn't care that other countries had import duties on our goods because the U.S. was still by far the best.
We can pull out of it.
The U.S.
We can pull out of it. We can just choose to withdraw from it. And we're still the largest market for this crap, for everybody's crappy goods that they send to us, right? We can make changes on this stuff. And if they don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as free trade, and there's definitely not fair trade. So, I mean, if you're Harley Davidson manufacturing in the United States and you want to sell your quality American-made motorcycle in Taiwan or Korea or Japan, there's 100% tax.
Good luck.
In some of these countries on imports of an American-made motorcycle to protect their own domestic manufacturing industry. Yeah. So there's no such thing as free trade or fair trade. All these agreements are, they're free trade in name only.
Yeah, it's fake trade. Fake news, fake trade, fake free trade, FFF.
Yep. And
maybe we should start a site, fake free trade.
Yeah, and there's no free market because of the intervention with all these global central banks, manipulating interest rates. Did you see the Atlanta Fed just flashed Q1 GDP? It was supposed to be 2.7% or double, and they reduced downward revision down to 1.3%. And yet Janet Yellen is saying how good the economy is and how there's no employment problems and that I think she wants to raise interest rates 3 times.
In Washington, D.C., the economy is great. Hey, in Washington, D.C., the economy is really great. In that metro area, it's doing wonderfully. And in Florida and in New York and in L.A. and in Boston and, in these metropolitan areas. But in the interior of the country, it's doing horribly. Hey, so Jason, Trump has been announcing all of these companies that are going to make investments, hire people, jobs, all this. Now, if they don't, they're going to get a Twitter storm. They got to be somewhat sincere in this, don't they? It's going to be real hard for them to back out. Like Exxon yesterday said, we're building refineries. We're investing $20 billion, which probably not a bad time to do it when the oil market's down, when labor costs are down. It's not a bright move to make a promise to Trump that you're not going to keep, don't you think?
Yeah, because Trump can issue with executive orders, what really worries me now, and I don't think Trump's a dictator, but if you go back and look through the president's last couple decades, the amount of power that Congress has delegated to the president and the power of executive orders, this is not what the founding fathers wanted. Right. Congress was supposed to have most of this power. Congress was supposed to, with two-thirds majority, change the Constitution. With two-thirds, they were supposed to declare war. Congress was supposed to be doing most of this stuff. Instead, Congress has just resorted mostly to fundraising and being career politicians and negotiating crony deals. And they've delegated a lot of their power to the president now, and the president has lots of these executive orders. So, Trump, like you said, with a tweet, he can knock the share price down 5% or 10% in a matter of days. These companies are worried about things like that because the executives of the companies, they've been getting rich and fat really quickly off these large amounts of share buyback. So with this artificially cheap debt from global central banks and the Federal Reserve, there's been over $1 trillion since 2009 in share buybacks. And this is not with free cash flow, Terry. They're not buying back shares with free cash flow. They're buying shares back with debt because it's cheap, and they're loading their balance sheets with that. And, you mentioned ExxonMobil, but the oil industry in general, the large oil companies like Shell Oil and ExxonMobil, they've been buying back their shares at much higher prices with debt. So they've gotten in trouble to the point where their costs for the large oil companies have risen 66% since 2011. There was a great oil price article on this last week on oilprice.com. And so they haven't been the beneficiary of lower oil prices that you would necessarily think, because they've bloated their balance sheet with billions of dollars in share buyback debt, and the oil and their costs to run their business have not been lowered. With the lower oil price, because they have interest expense and other things related to that. And they've been getting credit downgrade. So it's an interesting time right now with the stock market. We were talking about this before we started recording. The stock market was up 12 consecutive days. The last time this happened was 1987. And we had a 27% crash in 1987. So I'm not saying we're going to crash immediately anytime soon, but if Janet Yellen, the share buybacks that have been going on with debt have been slowing lately compared to how much they have been going on since 2009. So if you combine that with weak earnings, a strong dollar potentially on the dollar index, and Janet Yellen increasing interest rates potentially 3 times in 2017, that could let the air out of the balloon very, very quickly in the asset price market. And, I think there's a lot of Democrats who are guilty of groupthink at the Federal Reserve who would love to blame this crash on Trump. Because remember, during the campaign, Trump was, I think, correctly pointing out that the stock market is a bubble, the Federal Reserve manipulates interest rates, but once he won the election and he's president, now he's taking credit for the stock market going higher. So I think it's dangerous, the game that Trump has done, whereas, I think he was more honest during the campaign about his views on the Federal Reserve and the stock market, how it was overvalued. It's massively overvalued, by the way. I think the stock market, it's one of the 4 most overvalued times in history. The only other times it's been more overvalued really are 1929, 1999, and 2007. So if you remove those share buybacks, if you back them out, the stock market is the PE ratios on the stock market for the Dow and the S&P. They're at about 23 to 28 times, depending upon which large cap stock you're looking at. Utilities, which don't have any revenue, are trading no revenue growth, are trading at around 23 times earnings. Coca-Cola is trading at about 28 times earnings with really no revenue growth. So these stocks are trading like growth stocks now. People are that desperate for dividend yield and income. But if you remove the share buybacks that they've been doing with debt from the equation, man, the PE ratios would be probably at least 40 or 50% higher. So the stock market can go, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff Keynes said, but he's like, the market can remain irrational longer than you can stay solvent. We have record amounts of margin debt now of people chasing momentum. There's a lot of retail money, Terry, that has come back into the stock market, chasing the higher highs of the stock market.
Very bad sign.
So, yes, the dumb money has moved from cash and bond funds back into chasing stock mutual funds higher, chasing the market higher. So, I don't think any of this is sustainable. I don't want to give an exact timeline for when we could have, a drop in asset prices. But if the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates 3 times, there's a possibility of this now because they seem intent on doing it. And then now, because Trump is taking credit for the stock market, now they have a convenient excuse to blame it on Trump.
Well, it's all getting very interesting. We'll see what happens. We didn't have a chance to talk about Obamacade and the Trumpcade replacement, but we'll do that for another day. Jason, hey, just tell us best place to find your work.
Sure. They can sign up on our email list on our main wallstreetformainstreet.com website. That's WLLSTFRMANST.com. We do have our YouTube channel, which is over 2.5 million views and over 13,000 subscribers. But if YouTube is going to keep censoring us like this, we have to have backup plans, man, as we were discussing earlier. It's unfortunate, but, this is a new normal.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry about it. KL@KerryLutz.com. Send us emails there, KL@KerryLutz.com on this interview, any others that you have an interest in, and we always get back to you as best we can, at least at 95% of the time, and even nasty, unkind ones, we always get back. Twitter feed, for what it's worth, is @KerryLutz. I'm beginning to lose my enthusiasm for that garbage even more and more. The Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. By the way, the thing that I do like, iTunes, nobody's gotten to that yet. Nobody seems to care about iTunes from a political standpoint. So if you go to the iTunes store, assuming you have a Mac or a PC and you have iTunes, you can download it at itunes.com. It's really simple. You go to the iTunes store, type in Kerry Lutz or Financial Survival Network, and then you just click subscribe. It automatically comes to your computer. You can listen to it at your leisure, like Sunday afternoon. You got nothing better to do, and you had enough of the sports, and it's really simple. Just click that subscribe button. Really easy. Hey, Jason, it's always great to speak with you, and we'll be talking to you again real soon. Keep up the fight. Let's start a GoFundMe page and class action, Google and Twitter. Twitter's got so much aggravation, they will fold like a cheap lawn chair if you get a decent attorney after them. In fact, I know the guy who did the tobacco antitrust litigation. They would just love to soak those companies for 5 or 10 billion. And believe me, they will wind up paying, because there's an argument that these companies are effectively arms of the government, that they're acting at the government's behest when they do this stuff. If you can make that argument and make it stick, they will pay through the nose. And the Washington Post is a branch of the CIA. We know this. When the CIA leaks, they leak through the Washington Post. When you start connecting the dots and you show that these big companies are just corporativist endeavors working the government's will, all of a sudden the web titans, they just want to be done with it, and they will fold eventually. So I'm not saying it's easy. A lot of discovery, a lot of stuff. There's a lot of documents and rooms, but you know that they just have links to the NSA, and they just dump all their data right to the NSA, to the CIA, to the deep state. I mean, there's no difference now, Jason. You know what I'm saying? There's just no difference.
Yeah. Did you see the new Jason Bourne movie with Matt Damon? They actually had something along these lines in there. And then we have the WikiLeaks Vault 7 stuff coming out.
Yeah. There's just, hey, I don't want to get all paranoid and crazy about it, but this is the world we're living in. And don't believe it. Take a look at that Vault 7 stuff. Jason, got to go. Hey, always great talking to you. Don't give up the fight. Just work on your website and getting the word out there. It can be done. I've been doing it, for 6 years. Just rely upon yourself. Don't rely upon giga corporations, because they're going to screw you every time. They always have, and they always will. That's corporativism at its worst.
Thank you for the advice, Kerry, and let's definitely speak sometime this week or next week about the GoFundMe page for the class action.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.